Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Today is February 27th, 2023. Unfortunately, Black History Month is almost over, but it just so happens to be in the shortest month of the year, which is one of the running jokes and ironies about Black History Month. So I'm doing Friday's stream today. Many of you know that things got a little bit interesting towards the end of last week. I was just thinking, I'm going to see my father later this week. His birthday is on Thursday. My father is a superstitious man, and he feels that he never wants anyone to do anything to him or to his car or of anything of importance on a Monday because they're coming right off the weekend. So it won't be quality. Or they might make a mistake because they're coming off the weekend. Yeah, makes sense. Pops was always a little bit paranoid. Anyway, this is going to be a quick stream. We're going to talk about taxing robots because something that's being talked about a lot in the ether today is automation and jobs going away. Many of you know that I interviewed Dr. Patrick Dix about 2 months ago. Wow, time flew by fast. And I hope to have Dr. Dix back. And I'm hoping we can build some synergy. There are some other folks I want to build some synergy with. And yes, so the automation, it's coming. And a lot of people are looking around and wondering what to do about it. Some people are not looking around. Some people are caught up in their day-to-day grind and their day-to-day hustle and their day-to-day distractions on social media and in pop culture and in politics, and they don't see what's coming. But I think one of the questions is, if all of these jobs go away, how are people going to live? Where will the government get the money that it needs to take care of the have-nots and the poor among us? And how will things continue to go on once automation comes? So I have a short piece I'm going to read at the end of the stream. To start the stream, I'm going to introduce, or I'm going to share a Black History fact, since tomorrow is the last day of Black History, and I think this is an important fact and an important figure I'm going to share. I'm going to talk just a little bit about my the car vandalism that I experienced last week and my baptism into the Kia Hyundai car theft fiasco that's swept across our country. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how they're hot wiring the cars. So those are the three things I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to play the intro. I'm going to share this on my original channel. Thank you to everyone who supported my stream yesterday on my original channel, talking about my Kia getting vandalized and that whole debacle towards the end of last week. So thank you to everyone who supported over there. Sheed, what's going on? So I'm going to play the intro, and then I'm going to jump in, and then I'm going to hop off because I have more stuff to do with my 9 to 5. Unfortunately, I'm not at a point where I can completely support myself through content creation. Maybe I'll get there someday. Maybe 1,000 points of light will come together and I'll be able to do that someday. For those of you who watched Saturday Night Live in the late 1980s, I'm dating myself. That was a joke about George H.W. Bush. 1,000 points of light coming together. That's what he said in the presidential debates against, who did he run against? This was pre-Bill Clinton, Michael Dukakis. I think he ran against Michael Dukakis. And one of the things he said was, we're gonna 1,000 points of light are going to come together. Anyway, let me start this intro, and I'll see you guys on the other side. All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome back to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. For those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know that over here we talk science and technology related topics. So we're going to do that today. I normally do these on Friday at lunchtime. That just happens to be a time slot that's open, and I've been doing streams then. But, well, the end of the week was a little bit busy unexpectedly. And every now and then, life throws curveballs at us. And I'm going to talk about that shortly. I did talk about that on my original channel yesterday. After this stream is over, I'll probably leave the link underneath this stream. But before I do, let's do just a little bit of Black history to start this stream off for my non-Black, my non-African American subs and viewers. Please bear with us. I do come from the east side of Buffalo, so I think it's especially for the STEMs and especially in the business sector, I think it's important to relay what's known about our history, especially for the young people, just so that they're not looking entirely at athletes and entertainers and politicians and clergy, men and women, and civil rights activists. I think we need to give more exposure to our innovators and our scientists and our inventors and our business giants and titans. So let's talk about who invented the cell phone. We'll start the stream off with that. This is a short read. I saw this go up on Twitter about 2 to 3 weeks ago. For those of you, should I say his name? See, the thing is with social media actually is very toxic, depending upon who you're following, depending upon what they're talking about, and even just mentioning a person's name and being associated with that person, someone else, you could, oh, you believe everything that person says. You believe you're 100% in bed with that person. You're a supporter of this person. You're a supporter of that person. So sometimes it's best not to mention where you got something from or who you follow. But okay, Marcel for Congress. Marcel, he ran against Representative Jim Clyburn in South Carolina. So I follow him on one of my Twitter accounts, and he posted this Black History fact about the inventor of the cell phone. This is really, really short. Let's go over this. There were numerous articles when I looked this gentleman up on Google. This is just one I thought that was short and concise and would be appropriate for what I'm trying to do today. This is entitled Meet the Black Inventor Who Created the First Digital Cell Phone. Many people attribute the invention of the smartphone to Europeans, but in fact, the first digital cell phone was invented by an African American man named Jesse Eugene Russell. Russell was born on April 26th, 1948, in Nashville, Tennessee. His family lived in a very poor and socially deprived part of Nashville. Fortunately, he got the opportunity to attend a summer education program at Fisk University, and he did exceptional. Then he moved on to study electrical engineering at Tennessee State University. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. In 1973, Russell went further in his academic achievements to obtain a master's degree in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Not too shabby. While Russell while Russell was working as an engineer at AT&T Bell Laboratories in 1988, he created the concept for the wireless digital phone and communication. At the time, mobile devices were mainly used in vehicles. So Russell designed a cell phone that could transmit signals between handsets and cell phone towers. Doing so would make mobile phones more handy and also more affordable. In a statement, Russell once said, most of the time people are not in their cars. I said, well, that seems like an easy problem to solve, right? Why don't we just take the phones out of the car and put them on the people? Russell is responsible for other innovations in the field of wireless communications systems. He also created a company based in New Jersey called Inc. Networks Inc., a broadcast wireless communication system that focuses on 4G broadband wireless communication technologies, networks, and services. So everyone, that is Jesse Eugene Russell. I'm going to pull up a slide here because I think we talked about this. I forget which stream we talked about this in. Was it my discussion with Dr. Dix? Let me see if I can find the picture. If you have any comments on any of this, please leave those comments there in the chat. As I described yesterday, these discussions are more fun when there's interaction with the chat. Oh, here it is, 5G predecessors. So today we have 5G, and at some point I think we're going to go to a 6G. I pulled this slide from I can't see which website I got this from. I think it's Nextel. Right when the pandemic started, there was one conspiracy theory was that it was 5G that was causing COVID. So I did some light research on this, and it turns out that these there were different generations for wireless mobile networks. So there was 1G, there was 2G, and that's where Mr. Russell stepped in. And then there was 3G and 4G LTE, and now we're in 5G. So these things were conceived of years ago, and they have been upgraded with successive and passing years. So I just wanted to give some perspective and context for what I described regarding Mr. Russell and his contribution to this field. And of course, we know that cell phones they're a part of our lives today. We almost can't survive without these. I almost can't survive without mine. And whenever there were instances where I've lost my cell phones, because that's happened to me, unfortunately. I think it's happened to all of us. Yeah, there's a bit of a panic when you lose your cell phone because it's a part of you and all of your information is in there. I want to, Sheet is here. I want to acknowledge Char Willie. I think you're part of Sheets Network. I think you came over from Sheets Network. Thank you for being here. Char Willie says the rumors of 5G being toxic has died down a lot. Yeah, it's funny. At the beginning of I need to be careful about talking about it. The world event, the world health crisis. There were a lot of people who were on board saying it's the 5G, it's the 5G, it's the 5G towers. One of my cousins was very, very convinced that it was that. Okay, so that's a little bit of Black history, and the argument can be made that Black history should go throughout the year. We shouldn't restrict it to the shortest month of the year, and I agree with that. If you're just coming in, please hit that like button. The likes are free and they help with the engagement. If you're not subbed, please consider subbing. If you are a STEM professional out there, regardless of the field, and you think you might like to collaborate and talk about your career in your field of expertise, I am always looking for guests. If you're watching and you want to make a donation, my Cash App and PayPal are there. I don't have AdSense or a super chat over here. So if you want to donate that way, you're welcome to do so. If not, I'm just happy you're here. The views and the likes and the comments, those are currency as well. And maybe one day I'll get to monetize this channel. Okay, so yesterday on my original channel, I talked about what happened to me towards the end of last week. So I got introduced to the Kia and Hyundai car vandalism slash car theft epidemic in our country. I was at work and I got an alert from my neighbor that one of the windows on my Kia Forte were busted in. And I got home. I hurried home to find this. That is one of the rear windows of my 2020 Kia Forte, which is now at the dealership. You can see that window is busted in. And you can see that the perpetrators tried to hotwire the vehicle, or they, in the traditional sense, or they may have tried to use a USB cord. I learned a lot about this thing right away. Well, first of all, I noticed that my insurance premium, because I pay every 6 months, I noticed that my insurance premium went up by about $100, which was alarming. And then when I blew up Geico on Twitter, they were nice enough to respond and they said, hey, there's been an uptick in thefts and all kinds of other nefarious behaviors. And in order to absorb that, we have increased premiums on many of our customers. And so it turns out this is probably what they were talking about. It's hunting season now on certain Kias and Hyundai cars, particularly those with traditional standard key ignitions and engines which don't have immobilizers. Those of you who have the push button ignitions, you all are pretty safe at this point. But if you have a Kia or a Hyundai car with a traditional key ignition system, your car may be a target and you may be vulnerable. Yeah, Char Willie, as I described yesterday, I'm not angry. I think things are in place for me to absorb this. It's obviously something you don't expect to happen. And hopefully you can absorb it if and when it does. I probably, what's interesting is they didn't get the car, they didn't take the car. So I just have to get the car fixed. There's going to be a bit of a wait on that because of the uptick in these events and the issues with the supply chain. But if they had taken the car, I probably would have been furious. But in my mind, it could be a lot worse. So it just is what it is right now. Let's see what your other comment says. Queena, thank you for stopping through. Looks like you have your C19 mask there. I didn't notice that before. Charwoody said the insurance companies also announced they are limiting the amount of insurance amount per claim. Yeah, so even they're yeah, it's like a domino effect. It's like a ripple effect. And the insurance companies are no different. They're going to try to protect themselves and they're going to try to protect their losses. Speaking of which, before I jump into this article about using USBs to hot wire the cars, because as a scientist, I'm curious who told me about that. I think the police officer who came to my home to write the report, I think he was the first one to tell me about the USBs. And then the tow truck driver, we talked about it some more as we were towing my vehicle to the Kia dealership. Wayne Wallace, I am in Northern Virginia. And the police officer who filled out my report, I live right near the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, which takes you across to the Indian Head Highway area and National Harbor and 295. The police officer said that a lot of guys are coming over from Maryland to look for cars to steal over in Northern Virginia, and then they're taking them back. So this is, and then over on Facebook, when I try to warn people, some folks said, "Oh yeah, this has been going on since the summertime." So it was just my turn. It was just my turn. That's the way I'm looking at this. So, but most of you, well, if you don't know, over the holiday season, I rediscovered one of my heroes, author, podcaster, and speaker, Malcolm Gladwell. So I've been watching a lot of his content, and I've even started reading The Tipping Point. And interestingly, The Tipping Point, for those of you who don't know, and those of you who are unfamiliar with Malcolm, The Tipping Point is about how epidemics and movements get started. So when I learned that this was a TikTok challenge and that this seemed to have started in Milwaukee and spread, I started thinking about the tipping point. And 3 points Malcolm discusses early on in the book are how epidemics get started. So I created this slide yesterday. I'll just show it to you all briefly. If you're unfamiliar with him, that's Malcolm Gladwell. He's doing a lot of he's focusing a lot now on HBCUs and the fact that elite institutions are getting more money than they should be getting, and some of those funds should be going to HBCUs. But in terms of epidemics, these are the three factors he attributed to epidemics starting. In that chapter, he talks about I think it was the late 80s or 90s outbreak of syphilis in Baltimore. But you can think about a TikTok challenge as an infection in the same way, because someone is throwing an idea out there, it's infecting other people, and then you look up and you see thousands upon thousands and millions upon millions of people doing this particular challenge, like the ice bucket challenge or the silhouette challenge, or in this instance, the Kia car theft challenge. So one ingredient is the people who transmit infectious agents. The second ingredient or the second factor is the infectious agents themselves. And then the third factor is the environment in which the infectious agent is operating. So there are people transmitting these ideas. The ideas themselves are infectious agents, and just our environment right now lends itself to something like this happening. There's a lot of economic hardship around our country. I'm reading this book here as well, Men Without Work by Nicholas Eberstadt. I'd like to interview him at some point. But there is a silent epidemic slash crisis of prime age working men who are not in the workforce, and they spend most of their time at home on screens like this or on their cell phones. So there's a lot of economic hardship. You have a lot of men not working who are keeping themselves busy with the internet. And you have a lot of idle minds and idle hands who are fertile for something like this. So I just kind of connected the dots yesterday between social media. TikTok was not on that list when I created it, and this whole fiasco that's going on with Kias and Hyundais getting stolen. So how are they doing this? How did the Kia boys with a Z, that's with a Z, not a S, the Kia boys and all the perpetrators who decided to follow suit, how did the copycats and the originators of this, how are they doing this? Well, it turns out they're using USB technology. This is a short piece. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to talk about taxing robots. And then I'm going to wrap up. Please hit that like button if you haven't. It's interesting how technologies are created for one purpose, and then they are used for other things. They are misused and turned for other purposes. This is entitled How Thieves Are Stealing Hyundais and Kias with Just a USB Cable. That's the wrong one. Okay. And this was written by Rob Stump, and this was published back in August of 2022. So this has been going on for a little while. This low tech hack specifically targets the Korean cars that use a physical key. So that's a picture there. And this is what happened to my car. They busted open the ignition. They busted open that column to expose the ignition mechanism. And then I guess they tried to attach a USB cord from the dashboard, from the entertainment system, and they tried to activate the car that way. I don't know. I will. I wish I could. I wish I knew who did this. I might try to wring their necks if I met them. But I wonder if it's because it was a stick shift and not an automatic that they couldn't take it. My brother thought it's because I have a stick shift that they may not have been able to drive it away. But the other thing is that the car, the electronics were still active, so they activated something. But this is how they're doing it. So let me read this. If I can wrap this stream up. Please continue to comment or ask questions or make jokes in the chat, whichever you see fit. Okay. Thieves across the United States are eyeing Hyundai and Kia models as easy targets, thanks in part to viral social media posts. Essentially, if it's a modern car from one of those automakers that uh, doesn't utilize a push button start, they can fire up the car and drive away in less than a minute. The only tool required is something that can be found in just every vehicle, a USB charger. An uptick in thefts for both brands has been recorded in several states over the past year. This tracks with the increased number of people watching and sharing videos of the Milwaukee-based Kia boys whipping around in stolen Korean cars. Yeah, so this is one of the downsides to social media. Someone gets on there with a bad idea, someone who has nothing to lose or nothing else better to do. They say, "Oh, that looks cool. I'm going to try it too." So this is one of the downsides to social media. Hello, really, Chris. Thank you for stopping through. I'm just doing a quick lunchtime stream, the one that I intended to do on Friday, but I think you know that the week ended a little chaotically. So I'm seeing my antenna thing here. Okay, it's resolved. And let me know if you can hear me and see me okay, because I saw the antenna thing. That means that the signal is variable. Videos reveal exactly how they're going about it, and it involves peeling back the steering column cover and dismantling the key slot. A USB cable can then be used to turn the ignition tumbler, start the vehicle, and release the steering lock. In turn, this allows the Hyundai or Kia to be driven away and started again at any time using the same cable. The thieves specifically target Korean vehicles with a physical key slot, as push button start models can't be bypassed easily. It has to be, for me, it has to be because I have a stick shift. The perpetrators must not have been able to drive a stick. Please hit that like button if you haven't. Please subscribe if you are not. Vehicles that utilize a physical key fall victim to this method because they reportedly aren't equipped with a factory installed anti theft device called an immobilizer. These immobilizers use a chip called a transponder to authenticate a key against a vehicle's ECU. This means that even if a thief has copied the physical cuts on a key, the vehicle can't be started unless the transponder has been paired with the vehicle. Because the susceptible Hyundai and Kia vehicles allegedly do not have an immobilizer, the thieves are able to simply force the ignition cylinder as if they were using a screwdriver to perform the same trick on a car from the 1980s. Spokespeople for Hyundai and Kia say the 2022 models are immune to the method. That said, thefts of current cars have still been reported by various news outlets. It's unlikely that a would-be thief would know a 2022 from a 2021 when there aren't any styling changes, so owners may still be targeted and vandalized even if thieves are unable to drive away. Maybe that's what happened in my case as well. Maybe they got in there and they thought they could just take it, and maybe my car does have an immobilizer. I don't know enough about it yet, and I've never thought about that, whether my engine has an immobilizer. But maybe that's why they didn't take it, or maybe they couldn't drive stick. There's the thumbnail I used yesterday over on my main channel, or should I say my original channel. I tried to mute myself for the sneeze, but I guess you guys heard it anyway. She says, yeah, this might have been it. She says, I got a Hyundai. I might want to get it ready. And also the stick saved your car. Okay, so she thinks it was the stick. I kind of think it was the stick too, because not everybody can drive stick. Charwilly thinks it was the stick as well. Okay. If they're mostly teenagers, yeah, then yeah, they probably couldn't do it. You guys know an interesting fact about me. I learned how to drive on stick. So when I went to get this car, that was one of the that was during the pandemic, and there weren't a lot of cars available, and Kia just happened to have a stick. So I said, "Yeah, I'll take a stick. Give me the stick." So I'm getting this lunchtime rush of Facebook messages now, so I'm gonna have to close down Facebook. Well, let's see. Okay, this one is almost over, and then we're going to talk about taxing robots. So there's one of those teenagers Char Willie just talked about. And I haven't watched any of these videos on these kids. I kind of don't want to, but maybe at some point I'll click watch to see this buffoonery and this recklessness in real time. While Milwaukee isn't the only city affected by the rise in thefts, it's undoubtedly one of the worst. In fact, Korean cars represent more than two-thirds of all vehicle thefts in the city, and they've increased 2,500% year over year. Milwaukee has even considered taking Hyundai and Kia uh, to court over the matter, as City Alderman Michael Murphy told WISN. It has a real detrimental impact on the quality of life for its citizens. Last June, a separate class action lawsuit was filed under seal against the automakers and their parent company, claiming that its vehicles are manufactured with subpar security measures. Owners of affected Hyundais and Kias may want to consider an added layer of security to prevent this from happening. Well, they may choose a purchase an after immobilizer system or block the club. While the search the underlying problem, it does help by deterring would-be crimes of opportunity. Okay, so that's the end of that. Again, this just happened to me at the end of last week, so I remember hearing something about the Kia boys in my periphery over the last year, but it's one of those things where until it touches you personally, it doesn't really register, unfortunately, sometimes. Now, if Sheet is still there, Ray Alexander came through right as I was wrapping the stream up, and he said, Dr. Dunbar, would you consider getting a luxury car the next time? Something that's befitting of your title and your PhD? You should drive a luxury car. You should get a luxury car. So look for me and Sheed and Alonzo to talk about that on my original channel sometime soon. Should you have a vehicle to match your degree title and your job? That's how we ended yesterday's stream. I've been pondering that as well since Ray Alexander threw that out into the ether yesterday as well. So look for that stream. Okay, let's talk about taxing robots. And then I'm going to wrap this up. As you all know, I get a lot of articles on my smartphone. I'm sure you all do too. And anything that relates to science and technology is fair game over here. And it just so turns out that even before I started YouTubing, me and a mentor, as a matter of fact, the mentor who told me, you need to write a blog post on blockchain technology. And I did that. And I think he recommended quantum computing as well. I never got around to the quantum computing, though I may at some point. But we were talking about automation years ago. Even before I was on YouTube, even before I knew about Dr. Patrick Dix, and before I knew about the fourth industrial wave, we were talking about it. And he mentioned the concept of taxing robots. So if you haven't, take a look back at my interview with Dr. Patrick Dix from around Christmas time, and then over on my original channel, Dr. Patrick Dix mentioned an article called "The Rise of the Useless Class." So it's predicted that a lot of jobs are going to get wiped away due to automation and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the question is, what's going to be done with those people? Well, one of the questions, one of the suggestions Dr. Dix makes himself is to try to make yourself irreplaceable and to try to prepare yourself so that you're not made irrelevant and useless, and so that you'll still be able to survive and thrive during this oncoming wave of automation. So he talks about that all the time. He and Erica Williams. But the question is, what's going to happen to the people who are not prepared? How will the government take care of those people? How will those people eat and get the health care they need? And how will the government get the money it needs for infrastructure and for defense spending and for all of the other things that the government does? Well, some would argue that the government doesn't need to do all of the things that it's doing right now and that the government is too big. I'm kind of leaning in that direction myself, that maybe we do have too much government. But the question is, what's going to happen with those people who are displaced, and how will the government continue to raise the revenues it needs? So one way is through actually taxing the robots. So let's hear a little bit about that. I believe this is a short piece as well. I hope it is. Sometimes they look short when you're skimming through them and they end up being long. Okay. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders says he agrees with Bill Gates that the government should tax the robots replacing workers. This is written by Nicole Guadiano. There's Bernie Sanders and Bill Gates. I'm sure all of you know who those two gentlemen are. Bernie ran for president and arguably got shafted on the Democratic side in the last two presidential election cycles. Bill Gates is the founder of Microsoft, and now he's interested in humanitarian causes. So I think these are the three main points. This article, this link, just like the other ones, are below in the description box. You've heard Senator Bernie Sanders say and probably shout that he wants to tax billionaires. He also wants to tax robots. In his new book, The Vermont Independent writes that he supports establishing a robot tax to account for the impact of automation on workers. If workers are going to get replaced by robots, as will be the case in many industries, we're going to need to adapt tax and regulatory policies to assure that the change does not simply become an excuse for race to the bottom profiteering by multinational corporations. He wrote in It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism, to be released on February 21st. That means it's already out. The general idea behind a robot tax levied on firms that replace humans with robots is to disincentivize the practice and to cover the loss of revenue from payroll taxes when robots are used, according to a report by Robert Siemens for Brookings. Siemens argues that these taxes may be well intentioned, but are a misguided idea that would have negative consequences for firms, their workers, and ultimately the economy. That's because the idea that robots are taking jobs is not well founded and it would lead to less economic growth, he wrote. But Sanders isn't alone in this thinking that robots should be taxed. His book references policy ideas from other proponents, including Microsoft's Bill Gates, a billionaire who Sanders notes is not someone I regularly agree with. Gates has said that the tax could help finance jobs requiring human empathy and understanding, such as elder care, having smaller class sizes, or helping children with special needs. Sanders also points to other ideas from other sources as well that would require companies to pay a portion of payroll taxes in a retraining fund for displaced workers, or that would prevent automation from reducing tax revenue. There's the book there, and that's the end. See, everyone, short and sweet. Short and sweet. So let's see, I'm at 47 minutes. That is most of my lunch break, my remote lunch break. So everyone, I just wanted to come on and present those things. Friday, when I normally do these streams, it was pretty crazy. I was trying to get my car over to the dealership and so that it wasn't sitting out in the parking lot unprotected. So most of my Friday was spent doing that and trying to hunt down a rental car, which I was unsuccessful at doing. Professor Black Ops says, I like that tax idea. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. If the workers are going to be replaced by the robots and the robots are going to generate revenue, then you probably can't just put people out on the street with nothing. So those funds need to, yeah, those funds should go to something that will offset the effect of those people no longer being needed. I agree. Really, Chris, I don't know what you're laughing at. Are you laughing at my hardship? If so, that's not very nice. I'm just joking. So that's it. That's all I've got. Professor Black Ops, we still have to do a stream with all the tech guys. There's another gentleman I want to interview. I'm not going to say his name. I'm seeing my dad this week. My dad's very superstitious. He always says if you tell people what you're doing before it happens, it's not going to happen. But I think, yeah, Professor Black Ops, we have to get all the guys together, Aquatechy, yourself, Engineering Cannabis, maybe Gabe A, Red Team, Blue Team, and you guys can educate us on what's happening in the tech world. So everyone, I'm probably not going to do a stream on Friday. Thursday is my dad's birthday, so I will be with family. I'm not going to try to cram a bunch of things into that visit. So look for a pre-record. And I'm thinking about going back to my pharmacological roots. I haven't done anything drug related in a while. Of course, the tech is more popular than drugs and biology, but okay, I'm gonna have to shut Facebook down. All right, they stopped. So yeah, so look for a pre-record later on in the week. I probably won't do a live stream. And Professor Black Ops, yeah, I will. I think I'll do an email blast. Facebook. Hold on. I've been getting a lot of Facebook requests. There was a surge Facebook requests from guys I don't know. I think maybe from the YouTube space, and I have not accepted a lot of people. Facebook in itself is crazy because you don't know who's tagging you and what. You don't know when people are ripping footage from here and then re-uploading it on Facebook, and you don't. Facebook are those are a lot of your relatives and friends. It's more of a personal circle than Twitter or YouTube. So I've been very, very hesitant to accept a lot of people on Facebook recently. So if you've friend requested me and I haven't accepted you, I just put a bit of a halt on accepting people on Facebook who I don't know. Okay, so everyone, yeah, look for a tech stream in the near future and an interview with another guest, in addition to all of these exciting science topics that I keep coming upon and learning about every week. If you're watching on the playback and you want to make a donation, that information is here. I don't have AdSense or a super chat or a super thanks over here yet. If you're unsubscribed and you're new here, please consider subscribing. Please like this video and share it. And if you're watching on the playback, please leave a comment underneath this video if something was said that resonates with you. Thank you to those of you who have joined my newsletter. If you're unfamiliar with it, please consider joining. This link is below in the description box. There is a 2-paragraph greeting that I wrote myself. And then there is a subscription button at the bottom. You just click on it and it takes you right there. It takes you there. You enter in your email address, and then you're a part of the club. And I won't give your information away to a third party, I promise. And I think that's it. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for those of you who are watching live. And thank you to those of you who have signed up to the newsletter thus far. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Stay safe out there. If you have a Kia or a Hyundai, take the appropriate steps, take the appropriate measures, and be a good Samaritan and warn other people in your circle, because this is happening. It happened to me, so it can happen to others. And it probably will continue happening until this entire thing dies down. So with that, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Have a good week. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude, and always try to do your best. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.